It's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, I'm Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. Today, I have a special guest. She's been a networking colleague, has become a dear friend over the years. We've done business together. Annette Naif is an event producer strategist, international speaker, host of a Turn of Events live show and podcast, and the CEO and creative director of Naif Productions, where she produces corporate, social, nonprofit, and weddings. She plans with the best of the best. She helps events, and I'm going to tell you this from a personal perspective, come off flawlessly. So welcome, Annette. Thanks for hanging out with us here today.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
So, always start with how did you get involved in event planning? Where did this come from?
Yeah. So, I've been doing this for over 30 years, which is so amazing to believe. And I've had my business for 12
That's amazing because that you started at 13.
Yeah, I love you. That's why you're one of my dearest friends. So, so I was really the girl in high school that everybody, I was the one who planned all the gatherings and the get-togethers and the after school things and all of that stuff. So it really started, I think I was just meant to do this at birth. So that's kind of how it started. Then my first paying job was for Sebastian, the hair product company. And I ran all of their hair shows for five years. And then I got into film and television, and then I moved to New York. So it's a big, long story in between that. But I just was always the girl that did it. And when I thought, gosh, I can get paid to do this, this is fantastic. And then I didn't think to start my business because I just didn't have that entrepreneurial mind. I didn't think to start my business until 2008 when the economy crashed. And I thought, okay, well, there's nothing going on. I'm just going to start my business and see how it goes. And that was 12 years ago. And here I am. So, and I've been doing really well. So I'm very excited about that, but it's hard work, as you know.
It's wild. And hats off to you, and actually hats off to both of us, because Slater Success started in January of 2008.
Yeah. And
to think about starting a business, it's like, the recession crashed, so I'll start an event planning organization.
Right.
It's not. And so that leads us to think about, that time and then navigating the pandemic when everybody stopped events.
Yeah. Yeah.
What gave you, it takes guts to do this. It takes bigger guts to do it during, in 2008, when we truly had the economy go down.
Right.
How did you get started then? How did you take momentum then?
Right.
Of during when people were worried about spending money? And this is always, when people are building businesses, people are they going to invest? Or they were, where that has that financial worry. How did you navigate that to build this?
Yeah. So in 2008, when the economy crashed, I figured I had, I was working for a commercial real estate company. They own the 1500 Broadway building, which where Good Morning America is. So I was running that, I was the director of operations, had a great job, cushy job, making all kinds of money, had my own driver. And I was bored out of my mind because obviously everything stopped and there was nothing going on. So I thought, okay, I need to do something. I had time because we weren't doing anything. And so I had just graduated college because I went to college late in life and I got my degree in business management and marketing. So I just did that. I thought, okay, I knew I had a legal background, so I knew how to set up a business. And at that point, I really wasn't even still thinking I should start an event business when I had been doing events in every job I had. It's so crazy to think, but it still hadn't hit me. So needless to say, within a few months after everything was set up and I started getting clients, they wanted help with their marketing because I was good with that. They laid me off and I got a year severance package. So that helped me. And I had some money at the time because I was working and making money and not spending money on a business. So that when you spend money on a business, forget it. So I figured the good thing is many companies were not, they got rid of all of their event teams. So I knew that there was going to be some need. They were going to still have to do events eventually because many corporations And there's still people going to get married, and there's still people going to have parties and stuff like that. So I just figured it was probably a really good time. And then the same thing happened when they shut down our businesses with COVID a couple years ago now, which is so crazy to think it's been that long and it's still going on. But I'm still dealing with all the COVID stuff. It's very, very, it's very hard. But when they shut down our businesses because of COVID, my first thought was, okay, I got on this phone with my AV team and I said, what is our plan? What are we going to do? And we ended up going virtual. Everything was virtual. So I do a lot of, I do corporate, I do a lot of nonprofit, I do a little bit of wedding, but I do mostly the corporate and nonprofit. So all my nonprofits, corporate shut down. They just moved everything. They weren't doing, they had a whole employee thing to deal with, as you know. So nonprofits still had to raise money. So we just pushed everybody to a virtual platform. And honestly, I just had to figure out, we've done lots of virtual we've done lots of live with a virtual aspect to it, not a full-on virtual event. So that was something we just had to, my AV team is fantastic. They've been in business for 40 years. I knew I was in great hands. We figured out what my production side was going to be, the producing side of it. And then eventually after we did the first one, I was like, okay, this is the stuff they need help with. We didn't price like we should have because it was another, it was just,
you're figuring it out.
We're figuring it out. We faked it until we made it, basically. And that's kind of how it goes. And so we're still doing a few virtuals, but it's mostly live now. Back to that.
And it's truly staying in the pulse of the marketplace.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. It's like, okay, the marketplace is shifting. What is the problems that have arisen in this marketplace? Mm-hmm. And then how do I or my company come in and serve those problems with the solutions that will continue to help them move forward?
Exactly. And that's when I started my live interview program, which you're going to be on in a few weeks. And I'm excited about that. I started that because my industry was hurting. People didn't know what to do. And I wanted to get out and start doing videos. And I thought, okay, I can do an interview program. This is easy. I can talk to anybody. And so I started doing that. And now it's been going on for, a couple of years now, which is so crazy. It helped because it helps not only people in my industry, but business owners, entrepreneurs, trying to figure it out. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's true because at the same time of the pandemic, I started putting on visionary leader calls, like just bringing businesses together to talk business, don't stay in emotion, and don't stay stagnant, come together and talk business. And from that birth, my leadership roundtables, right? Because people wanted to continue, people were like, well, how do we keep this group together? Listen to the marketplace.
Right.
In the years of what you're doing, what has surprised you? What have been some of the surprises?
Well, I mean, I would say, the biggest surprise right now is, listen, you have to, I also coach wedding and event planners on how to start a business, an event business, and it's tough, but you have to be consistent. You cannot give up. You have to keep marketing. You have to be visible. I say that probably every week that I get in my Facebook group with my Facebook wedding and event planners that, I repeat that all the time, and it is something that's there. But, I would say that, you build it and build it. And I was 10-year anniversary when COVID hit. So, I was ready to celebrate and business was pretty much kind of running itself. And then all of a sudden, so, you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's the biggest surprise is, you have to really be innovative and know what the trends are going, what's happening, and pivot your business. I hate that word because we used it so much during COVID. But
I agree.
I just feel like the biggest surprise is that, for myself is that we were able to keep going. I mean, that is just, when I look back now, I'm like, holy crap. Like, how did I even think to do that? I just figured I just had to figure out what to do. And, that's the best, look, I'm a planner, so I'm good at resources and figuring out what's plan B, C, and D. So I think it's in the blood, but and so many people in my industry didn't make it. Their businesses.
It's true.
And that's the biggest surprise to me was the people that I thought were kicking ass weren't so much. And so you just don't know what other people are doing. And that's one tip I want to tell people is when you think everybody else is like being, they're out there killing it, it may not be the case. You just have to stay focused and keep doing what you're doing.
And I love you sharing that, because it's very much stop comparing yourself to others
Exactly.
as a comparison of, oh, well, they're doing this and I wish I could, or that's where I'm going.
Yep. Yep.
Create your own. I talk about sometimes, your what and your why. What is
Mhm.
important to you and why is that important? And
Mhm.
let everybody else in the marketplace be in their own lanes and their what and why. Collaborate with them. I love collaboration
Right.
and work together, but don't compare yourself, and never compare yourself negatively.
Right. And the biggest thing was our industry. I think hopefully we don't go back to that, but we really pulled together as an industry. We were on we were doing Zoom calls, because of course, Zoom is like the thing. I've run my business in Zoom all these years, so it wasn't a surprise to me, and it wasn't that hard to switch over. But we were having like daily calls with groups of people in our industry to help each other out. Like, what are you guys doing? And it was just, when we were in lockdown, it was just to kind of sit and have a few cocktails together and figure it out until we finally things started opening up and moving. But so our industry coming together was a really big surprise, that we really pulled together as an industry, because sometimes it can be, every industry can be cutthroat, and you just, it's competitive.
Yeah, business is competitive, and
Yep.
it's how you navigate that for
Yep.
your success, and whether you let it throw you or you embrace it. I will say, in the printing industry for 100 years, it was a competitive marketplace.
Mm-hmm,
And then a bunch of us would sit over coffee at, an upstairs Starbucks on 8th Avenue on once a quarter or whatever it is,
right.
and talk about, the industry itself. And although we were competitors,
Mm-hmm.
we brought insight into and resources. And they're like, hey,
Yeah.
Ivy, come, you should be pitching this client of ours. I'm like, it's a client of yours. They're like, yeah, but they need more vendors.
Right.
And, right. They need more vendors. They need more options.
Yeah. People ask me all the time, why do you help wedding and event planners? Like, why do you do that? Why do you teach them, tell them everything that you've learned and done over the 30 years that you've been doing this? Because when I started my business, there was nobody there to help me. I knew how to run businesses. I knew how to run events, but I had no idea how to run the business. So I needed somebody to help me. Nobody would help because they felt threatened. No one could possibly take the work that comes to me unless you walk in my shoes 24/7. It's impossible. Like, there's different ways that people find, and I could be up for the same job with 3 people of my colleagues. And sometimes I get them and sometimes I don't. And same with them. So, I love to help people. That's why I love teaching. I don't want people to make costly mistakes in their business. And so, listen, I'm here to help, and hopefully it comes around,
So, speaking of, like, I hate to say costly mistakes, but there's lessons learned.
Mm-hmm.
There's lessons learned.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I'll always say, hindsight is 20/20. Oh, I wish I would have when.
I know.
And truthfully, that's water under the bridge.
Right.
Yet, as leaders in an industry, and you're a strong leader in your industry, what are some of the lessons learned that you would love to pass forward?
Well, the first one is, you don't need to spend a lot of money when you first start your business. Like, a lot of people want to have this fancy website, and I spent way too much time trying to figure out what the name of my company was going to be, when it really doesn't matter. It could be Mickey Mouse Events and nobody cares, right? So it's and I rebranded myself 5 times, I think maybe 4. And this is it. Like, I'm done. It's Naif Productions. It's where I am. But things along the way changed, and I wanted to make a change. So you don't need a fancy website when you first start. A lot of people put thousands and thousands of dollars into it. I've had 4 websites, I think, and I'm probably due for another one now, but this last one has really kind of been a good one, and it's still there. But you don't need to spend a lot of money in the beginning. And just knowing, like, having the legal side of your business is really important, having that set up properly, because, I'm in New York. I have a business out of New York. It is the most expensive place to have a business, and the rules are super strict. And so unless you really should know what you are. And so I just help guide, like, what you should know. I'm obviously not a lawyer, but I know the things you need to know. And then here's where you need to go to find out what you need to know for how to run your business in the state you're in, or whatever that looks like. So just really having your business set up properly. And then, should you have employees versus contractors, I I had a little thing with workers' comp and they sued me for $64,000 when I thought my
Ouch.
business, yeah. So I thought my business was set up properly and I was doing all the right things. And this person I had was a contractor, and there's many rules with having contractors. So you just need to know that. It's not hard. It's just knowing it. And so I settled and we were all fine, and that's long gone. But there were many tears during that time where I thought I was going to have to close my business many years ago, but I thought I was going to have to close the business, and I just worked through it. And you just, you can get behind it, but you just knowing, not making those mistakes and knowing what you need to know is so important. It avoids all those, $64,000 invoices from workers' comp that you don't need to get. So I had to spend thousands of dollars with attorneys to help me with that, because it turned into that situation, but it's all behind me now and it all worked out.
Yeah. And I will always say, surround yourself with a good professional team.
Yeah. Coaching, having a coach is the most important thing anybody can do. I've had a coach all along, and you're a magnificent coach. And I know you do a ton of coaching. So you really need to have a coach.
You have to have, I love having a coach, have a great attorney, have a good CPA. Yes. If you're a company, maybe it might be a CFO, it might not be, have a good, good person in your insurance, have a good financial planner, surround yourself with good, smart people. Yep. Because we know what we know and we know what we don't.
Yep.
And I want to be,
you don't have to spend a lot of money with those. You just,
they're
just there when you need them.
Exactly. Have the resources, and don't get gun shy and penny wise and dollar foolish.
Yep.
Okay. I think that's the right expression.
It sounds right.
It sounds right. Right. But the two of us decided it's right. So it's right.
It's right. That's all that matters to me.
Because people get hesitant to spend X amount of dollars, and then you get that $1,000 fine, right? Thousands of dollars, because we're worried, well, I don't really need to call them. And when I start with clients, I will say, do you have an attorney that you could pick up the phone and ask a question to? Well, I know some people. It's like, who's your go-to? Right. Who's your go-to?
Right.
Don't wait for a problem. Be proactive and not reactive.
And the money you spend on a coach that's going to save you so much money in the long run is listen, you're going to spend money. You're going to run a business. You're going to spend money running a business. So be prepared for that. It's not free to run a business. You have to spend money to make money. That's just kind of the way it goes. But all the money that I put into my coaches was worth every penny and then some, because, I don't know everything and I can't be everything in my business. So I think it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
I mean, I happen to agree. And I'm not saying it from a place of being a coach, a place from investing in coaching over the years.
Me too.
It keeps me out of my own way. It keeps me out of my own way. If not, I get all involved 100% in my clients' businesses, which I do. And I forget to pay attention to my own, because that's how I show up. I show up with a big heart, as you show up with a big heart.
Yes. Yes. It can be, yes. I've learned, listen, the first time I priced out my first event, and you probably know the person, I'm not going to say who it was, but later I'll tell you. It's so funny. It was, obviously
years ago,
12 years ago, the first event in owning my business, because I had to learn how to price out an event for myself, because I'd always been paid a salary doing events. I made a negative $52 an hour. It was like, after I figured it all out and I got a coach, and she said, okay, let's figure out what your costs were and how much. Oh my gosh, a negative 52 an hour. So you learn really quickly how to price yourself out when you're realizing that you're not making any money and it's in the negative. So it's a funny story now, but it didn't feel good then.
And we could literally go story for story. Because I remember in the early days, like my first coach, they're like, well, tell me about some of your clients. And I would say, okay, they started here and now they're earning this and their company's this and they hired this and they're speaking here, they're doing all this stuff. Yeah. And they're like, okay, Ivy, what are you earning? What are your monthly incomes? And I'm like, yeah. And it was like less than 10% of their less than 10% of all their successes. Right. Oh, and I'm saying less, one more time. Yeah. And they're like, how you feeling about that? And I'm like, I'm like the queen of looking at numbers. I didn't really want to look at this one. And I did.
That's the one thing, another tip that you had asked about is pay attention to your numbers. It's not fun. It may not look good. They might not look good in the beginning. They're going to be ugly in the beginning, but paying attention to my numbers actually helped me for some reason, psychologically, it helped me to make more money. I don't know really. I'm sure there's like a whole explanation around that, but and then mindset is, I'm sure you could talk a whole thing on mindset is everything. Keeping your mind right and having the right, getting into, even if there's groups that talk about mindset and keeping you going, you have to, that's helps me because it's a roller coaster. Even though I'm doing really well and I'm super busy, there's all more new problems that come along with that, right? Bigger teams and bigger clients. And it's, gets like that.
And I appreciate you sharing because it's important. I recently did an opening keynote for an association, and normally like they look at like my speaking topics, and they came to me and they're like, "Would you talk about mindset as an opener to set the conference up?" I'm like, "Go guys!" Like, thrilled.
It's so important. It's so important. Yeah. And it's consistent. Like, even though you talk about it, I'm a little guilty of not talking about it more in my Facebook group, which just reminds me that I'm going to, but
guess what you're going to be talking about now.
I know I will be. Mindset's so important because look, if you're not in the right frame of mind, you're not going to feel good about your business. And it's really, really hard. So support groups, getting in networking, supporting groups. Many times you and I have networked together, and the support that we give to each other and it's huge. I could not have done my business without networking with people that have supported me.
So Annette, how can our listeners know more about you and be in touch as appropriate?
Well, I'm all over social media with Annette Naif, ANNETTE NAIF. Naif Productions is the company. You can find me anywhere on social media. I'm all over the place.
Wonderful. Listeners and viewers, as we close today's show, I'm going to say there was an enormous amount of great content. Annette, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Stop and think before you just tune this out and say, what did I take away from here? What was impactful to me? And then take that next step forward and make the decision. What are you going to do about it? What are the actions you're going to take by hearing this? Feel free to put that in the notes below. We're happy to help you strive forward. Remember to stay tuned to Her Success Story. We come into your inbox every Monday morning. And as this content made an impact on you, please share it forward to your communities and continue to make an impact out there. Thank you for joining us here today.